I'm sure everyone has seen that you can easily remove some of the Epstein File redactions. And I've seen a lot of people online, like Penguin, talk about the idea that this comes from government incompetence, but I really urge you to take a step back and think critically about that. The American government has proved they're not incompetent time and time again. They're only incompetent on things we care about. So let's take a look at this hype train real quick.
There is never going to be anything that comes from anything Epstein related. That's basically how it seems. So I'm sure you've seen by now that with all of those redacted files that they've been farting out, you can actually unredact a lot of them yourself, and you don't even need a double-digit IQ to do it. Here's a quick tutorial that even a Neanderthal can follow along with.
Redacted. So you can go ahead and scroll down till you get to a redacted area. Here's a redacted area right here. Guess what? If you want to look at these files, all you got to do is copy it and paste it into Microsoft Word. And guess what? All the files are unredacted. There it is.
Pathetic loser worm. Now, if you're wondering how this even happened with being able to unredact this yourself, is because so many people working in the government are just actually incompetent. I don't mean that like exaggeratory. I mean like they legitimately like diaper wetting, paint chip eating fucking idiots over there. So the likely explanation here is they use the highlighter tool to black out the information, but they didn't actually redact it. So when you copy and paste it, it's still there. They didn't even actually redact it. That is how bad at their jobs they are. And I've seen a
Now again, this is the most high-profile sex crime case in American history, and it knots the whole world elite together. An American government is the same government that topples regimes, carries out ridiculous experiments against its citizens, and since we're already in Wonderland, we might as well bring up the fact that they've kept UFOs secret for almost a century. So they have technology beyond belief, but we're supposed to believe that we're learning the details of this Epstein case due to technological incompetence. I'm not getting on that train. Now again, the government's not incompetent. They simply don't put their efforts into things that would make them appear competent to us, because they're putting all their efforts and resources into black projects and things behind closed doors. You know, they siphon out all this stuff from our purview and do things behind closed doors that we can't really see. So here's an example of all that money that they take and use.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
2.3 trillion with a T.
$2.3 trillion is a lot of money. So if you imagine what they did with $2.3 trillion, and you know, that's just the surface level what Donald Rumsfeld brought up almost 25 years ago. So it's a lot more money than that, and like I said, they're doing things behind closed doors, and that's why the stuff that they do in front of us seems like it's not very competent, because they're just not focused on that stuff. I think it goes without saying that this copy-paste to unredact the lines in the Epstein files is not very sophisticated at all. You know, I could have done this in my computer lab in 3rd grade. So this doesn't scream incompetence to me. It screams some kind of social engineering where they want us to think the government is incompetent, but for what reasons, I'm not exactly sure. And this Twitter account, Proletario1, seems to think the same. He says, you know, I'm getting hold on, let me fix the screen. You know, I'm getting increasingly more confident that what is currently happening has to do with allowing the American people to lose trust in these institutions, which will play directly into the plans of the Red Folder, where the U.S. military steps in with full support of U.S. citizens who see them as the last bastion of justice. Now, I'm not exactly in tune with where he thinks this is going, but I agree with the initial sentiment that we're being made to lose trust in the institutions that were. And I don't really think that this is the death of the snake. I think it's some kind of shedding of its skin, some kind of evolution. And what I've learned when digging through conspiracies in my time is that you always have to think about who benefits from you thinking a certain way, especially when this kind of thinking stems from information that's been like spoon-fed, raw-dogged into your system. To me, true knowledge in this conspiracy land usually has to be uncovered and worked for, has to be gained through effort spent, blood, sweat, and tears offered. The kind that's spoon-fed you is usually to make you think a certain way, and usually not for a good purpose. So I'm probably on a list now, since I'm pushing against the narrative and telling everyone to think critically on this. So I would appreciate a like and follow. Remember to use your brains, think critically, and be careful who you follow.